We're back here at WHIP Radio in Philadelphia at the Wells Fargo Center, getting you ready for Temple and Kansas, which tips your way at 7. And the man that will be on the call tonight, along with Bob Wischusen, is the legendary basketball coach and now ESPN analyst, and that's Seth Greenberg. Seth, great to see you. How are you?
This is big. This is big. Live and in person. This isn't over the phone. This is huge for me. Whip radio is big. I understand that. And come on. It doesn't get any better than this.
Well, I think you're a legend, and people don't understand how good of a person you are, because over the summer, I put out a video of the Ice Bucket Challenge, and within 5 minutes of that Ice Bucket Challenge, because there's a lot of people out there that do the challenge, and then all of a sudden they don't donate. Within 5 minutes, you're texting me saying, where can I donate? So that's a major good job by you, Seth Greenberg.
Well, the challenge is one thing. I think the most important thing is to raise money. You want to raise an awareness, and I think they accomplished that. But, in the end, to find a cure, you've got to raise money. And I think people a little bit got too caught up in the visualization of it as opposed to the realization of this is a dreaded disease. I've lost a dear friend to it, and we've got to raise money and try to find a cure.
So let's get to the game tonight. Jesse Morgan and Devin Coleman are back for the Temple Owls. They had to sit out the first 10 games of the season, and then they were inserted into that Delaware game, and Temple made the most threes they've had all season long in a single game. What do those two players bring to Temple?
Yeah, they bring experience. They bring toughness. Jesse Morgan never saw a shot he didn't like, and he can get a shot. He can get it off quick, and he shoots it with range. He's kind of wired to score, and he's not afraid of the moment. And Devin Coleman, the guy played in the ACC. He was a tough kid. He was a hard defender. He's kind of a Philly tough, and he's shooting the ball well. Like when we played him in Clemson, we didn't guard him much. We played him as a driver. Talking to Coach Dumpf yesterday, he's really catching the ball, shot ready, and knocking down shots. And they help because they had depth, and they give him another body, and they give him another guy who can make shots. And when you're playing at Kansas, you're playing in the conference. You need guys that are athletic enough to defend, tough enough to compete, and can make shots, and that's what they bring.
The backcourt is the real strength for the Temple Owls, whether it's a Will Cummings, who's a senior player on this team, or Quinton DeCozy, and even Josh Brown improved his offensive game in the offseason. Then you add in Morgan and Coleman. How tough is that as a coach? I know it's your job, but to manage those minutes, and what do you look for in practice to see who earns those minutes?
I think you have some flexibility. I think, maybe not tonight, but eventually you could see Dumpf play 4 of those guys. That's not the worst thing that can happen to you. I think that, it makes competition's great. Competition makes everyone better. Will Cummings is the heart of this team, and let's face it, he really is. The soul of the team, you would say before the guys came back, is probably DeCozy. I like Josh Brown. I like his toughness. I like his versatility. Now, he's not a great shooter, but I think, you can never have enough guards, because the game starts with the guards. And if you have big guards that can defend multiple positions, it gives you a lot of versatility, and I think that's what Dumpf has now.
And also, defense is also a major facet of this game. And last year, the Owls almost let up 80 points per game. They made a big improvement. What did you see Fran Dumpf adjustments make from last year to this year in changing that defense?
Well, they're just back to their culture. When I think of Dumpf, I think of tough, physical, packed in, protect the paint, contest shot defense. That's what Fran's team's always have been. And last year they got away from that. And I'm not sure they got away from it, or they just didn't get guys to buy in. This team is back to their culture. They're checking people. They're physical. They're hard to score against, and that's who they're going to be. Look, this is a difficult game, and it's hard to win. Excuse me. The other team is always trying to win also, and it's hard to maintain a program. When I started looking at this thing, Dumpf's won 74% of his games. He's been to 6 straight NCAA tournaments. He's a great coach. He's a great person. When I think of Philadelphia basketball, I used to think of Jimmy Lynam. Now I think of Fran Dumpf. And he'll get this thing. They had a great early recruiting period, and the pieces are starting to fit together. Aaron McKee on their staff is a great addition. My brother drafted him in Portland, and another guy that has pride. I was blown away by the new practice facility. Really, really done a first-class job. So I think it's pretty exciting for the Temple Owls.
To the defense, it's a simple skill, but it's an imperative one, and that's really just talking and keeping your hands up. And we saw the other night in Delaware, Jesse Morgan talks a lot on defense. How essential is that when your players are communicating on the defensive side of the ball?
Communication offensively and defensively is just so important to success. And, being alert, being active, talking, playing 5 as 1, seeing plays early. It's all that important, and then it's just it's about toughness. I mean, you've got to want to get a stop. You've got to want to get through that screen. You got to not be a piece of Velcro and stick to a screen. And you have to communicate, because if a screen is coming, whether you're opening up or switching or staying or shrinking, all those things come into play. And good teams communicate. Good teams are hard to screen. Good teams get through. In defensive transition, good teams communicate, so they stop the ball, protect the basket, close back out. And those Dump's teams have always been like that. Like I said, last year was out of the norm, and they're just back to their culture.
We're spending a few minutes with Seth Greenberg of ESPN. He'll do the game tonight along with Bob Wischusen. And where Temple has struggled this year has really been in the front court. They've been getting some solid minutes out of Jalen Bond. Then you have a freshman in Obi Echeonia. But then you look at players.
Very good job.
Yeah, right.
Obi Echeonia. That's the best I couldn't even get Dump to pronounce. Obi Echeonia.
He just says Ob. That's what Dump does. But then you see some players like a Devontae Watson or a Mark Williams that have been getting beat up a little bit defensively. What is Temple going to have to do tonight down low in defending Kansas's Perry Ellis?
They've got to defend him early. I mean, I think that's the most important thing. If you're going to defend Perry Ellis, you better not let him get a foot in the paint. So you got to defend him early. And you got to have pressure on the ball, because pressure on the ball buys time for everyone around you. So, but you've got to be physical. You'll defend him early, and you can't let him catch it deep. And then when he catches in ISOs, your help's got to be early, because he's so good at driving it left and spinning back to the middle and creating contact or finishing. So he's a tough matchup, but Oubre had a big game against Lafayette the other day. He's a tough matchup. Frank Mason's got some toughness about him at the point. I mean, this is a good Kansas team. Not a great team, not what they've been, but they're very good and they're very well coached.
It's incredible how they've been able to compete this year and have so much success after losing Andrew Wiggins and Joel Embiid. Bill Self deserves all the credit in the world after losing those guys and then being able to only lose one game this year, and that was to Kentucky. And hey, everyone loses to Kentucky this year.
Yeah, and he's done, and they've won a lot of close games, and they've won close games because they've got stops at the end of the game, and that's what happened. That's a good thing. And they're still a work in progress. They get stuck. They were great offensively in the first half against Utah, and they got stuck in the second half. Utah had a little bit to do with it, but they're a good team. He's a great coach. They've been good for a long time, and this has been a good series. I mean, I remember watching a game when I was still coaching, Temple going into Allen Fieldhouse and almost coming out with a win. So it's been, it's a great game for Temple to play, and the league needs some wins. SMU got a good win the other day against Michigan at Michigan. The American Conference needs some wins, and I feel bad for the Temple guys, because now that they're in the American Conference, void of the Louisvilles and people like that, you're almost in the back of your mind, and probably people don't want to hear it. Could they be really almost better off being in the Atlantic 10 right now? But because I'm not sure how excited the Philly faithful are going to be about ECU and Tulane and those people rolling into Philadelphia, where they really don't have a real relationship with those schools, even though they're good schools. But don't forget it done, and this should be fun tonight.
Before we let you run, Zach Gelb here with you, WHIP Radio in Philadelphia at the Wells Fargo Center. Getting ready for Temple in Kansas, talking to the great Seth Greenberg.
I like that, the great. That sounds good.
That's a Sid Rosenberg term, really. Before we let you run, before we let you run, finish the sentence. If Temple wants to take this one down to the wire and get the win, what will they have to do?
You're going to have to control the tempo of the game. They're going to have to manage possessions, eliminate live ball turnovers, eliminate second chance scoring opportunities, set their defense, and probably make 11 to 12 threes.
Coach, we appreciate the time. Great to see you.
Zach, my pleasure, man.